Hello guys, and welcome to Panzer Corps 2. A massive thank you to Slytherin for sponsoring this video and giving me the opportunity to share another awesome wargame with you. Certainly spoiled for choice this week. I have played this game on stream a few times before, but for those of you unfamiliar with Panzer Corps 2, it is a World War II turn-based strategy game where you can play through so many different scenarios, of which many are on sale this week, including the base game itself. So if you're interested in picking up the game or completing your collection, now is a really good time to do so. There is so much content in this game, from the Spanish Civil War all the way to like 1946 what-if scenarios. So today I'm going to show you as much as I can. So we'll start with having a look at one of the what-if scenarios in 1946, the Axis invasion of America. So if we go to New Game, we go to Campaign, we have the Axis operations of 1946. Let me read you the description. After a long and ferocious war across Europe, peace has fallen upon the continent once again. Great Britain has been completely isolated, and a temporary armistice has been made with the Soviet Union. However, one final opponent remains, the mighty United States. Unable to cross the Atlantic Ocean, Germany instead uses its vast conquest in the east to link up with its Japanese ally, and together the two Axis powers ready themselves for Operation Olympus, the invasion of the United States. So the years covered is 1946 to 1947, and the campaign size is 27 to 30 scenarios based on choices in the campaign and your success. It's a really long scenario. I mean, bear in mind that each scenario is anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour plus. So the game is very, very big. Like if you just look at the Poland scenario here, we've got 20 to 23 scenarios from 1939 to 1945. So you get that big, nice transition of different types of units. We've got the Barbarossa campaign, the North Africa campaign here, the Kursk campaign, the Italy campaign, the newer ones, which is like the Ghost Division here. And then the First Guards. First Guards is really cool. You follow the First Guards from the beginning of the Spanish Civil War all the way through to 1945, and you kind of progress the equipment of the division as you go. So that's really fun. And then you also have the Cyrenaica campaign, which I've played on stream, and that was really fun, where you're fighting over sort of Libya and Egypt. So really interesting campaigns. But yeah, we'll jump into the Axis Operation 1946, and I'll show you some of the toys. There is plenty to read. They do have a lot of sort of text and characters that you can read through here, but this is pretty much just telling you more about the description that I gave you already. So when you start a campaign, you can start with a strength or weakness. So if you want to make it more difficult for yourself, you can deny yourself artillery for the entire campaign, or you can make tanks cost cheaper by being a panzer general, for example, or making it so that encircled enemies suffer extra penalties. So if when you completely surround the enemy, it counts as encircled. We'll just go to panzer general. It's the easy one just to show off some stuff. So here is the chat between us and Oberst Stefan Wagner and Reichsmarschall Manstein. So we'll just skip through this, but if you want to read it, then you can feel free to pause as I go. I won't click it through too fast, just in case. But I wanted to get through to the mission and really show you exactly what kind of units you can get access to in this campaign, which are really, really cool. But basically the conversation is talking about their plans for engaging the Americans and how they're going to do it. So with the Japanese control over the northern Pacific Ocean, they were planning to make a feint attack into Vancouver to draw the American forces away from another place where they could land instead. So the Japanese have put in good work, and we will be attacking Vancouver Island shortly. This first scenario is just a chat and make sure to give you the basis of the operation. So you kind of get the gist of it through this conversation and the plans that they're talking about here. We'll end the briefing And we'll move on to Nagasaki with our Tiger tank, as we were delivering that to a Japanese general. And this gives you, again, more information about the operation. So let's just skip through that, and we'll end, and that will get past the Nagasaki conference, which was the conference that they had to plan the invasion of America. So on we go, and you see the Japanese and German forces are advancing on the west coast. So now we start the operation. So, my general, allow me to introduce you to Commander Kazunari Miura. I'm at your disposal, Vulcan-san, but I serve the Empire. Commander Miura is our liaison to the Imperial Japanese Navy, so he'll handle any messages we need to send to Vice Admiral Sukahara aboard the Akagi. If I may interrupt, as I understand it, you Germans already have your plan, but there are certain details I would like some clarification on. By all means, Commander, ask away. Several of our submarines have already scouted the Johnston Strait, and it appears to all be clear. Do you still prefer to land on the west end of Vancouver Island? The waterway to Vancouver itself is open. While it is ultimately up to the General, I definitely advise we advance cautiously. I'd like Recon Force to make absolutely certain there are no surprises waiting for us. And if the way is truly clear, it should be no real difficulty to re-embark from Victoria to occupy Vancouver. The primary objective is to witness Akagi's fate. Bonus objective, capture Vancouver Island and Vancouver Island's villages, and elite objective is to raid Victoria. And in the event that there is some surprise that requires Akagi to prematurely depart, we still expect your submarines to pick up the men of our light recon force. Very well, but keep in mind that none of our submarines are I-400s, so we will not be able to evacuate any heavy equipment. The terrain of Vancouver Island is hardly suitable for heavy panzers, so we probably shouldn't be landing them anyways. That said, we do have an amount of dummy vehicles we brought along with us, where we still want to give the illusion that this is a major amphibious landing after all. May fortune smile upon our efforts. To victory for Germany. Alright, so there's some of the conversation for you, and you can see that we've got a military commendation. So Maximilian Schaefer is a hero that we've been given, and we can assign him to a unit. So he gives us shock tactics. So when attacking, pins enemy unit in place by destroying all of its movement points. That's quite a nice thing to be able to do. So we can select an infantry unit and we can actually assign a hero to them. So we'll probably give him to the just one of these infantry units. We actually have quite a lot of guys here. Interesting. So we can assign him to that unit. And now we have the extra attack. All right. So let's go ahead and place down our units. Now, the way that the game works, for those of you unfamiliar, you at the start of a scenario, you select the units from your deployment and place them in these yellow hexes, which are deployment hexes. Now you can, if you go to purchase units, purchase new units, which we'll probably want to do because if we don't want to leave any of our heavy equipment behind, we'll have to focus mainly on infantry. So I'll have to buy some extra infantry here that we can take to the island. But as you can see, if we click through, we've got like all of the different infantry types here. And then we've got loads of different tanks, some really cool tanks as well, like the Mouse has arrived because obviously it's quite late into the war, well, 1946, the E75, the E50, the E100. In terms of recon, things are pretty standard here. In anti-tank, E25, E10 joins the fray. For anti-aircraft, we do have like Mobilwagen, Ostwind, pretty cool stuff. For artillery, the Hausstrecke, we got the Goela 17, so big boy Sturm Tiger in there as well. For aircraft, things are pretty cool. The HE 162 and the Dornier 335. You got the 229 and the 183 as well there. Interesting Focke-Wulf. For tactical bombers again, the Junkers 187, the Arado 234, and yeah, very cool jet engines in there. We got some jet bombers as well. The Horton is in there, as well as the E555. Yeah, some pretty crazy stuff that you can get your hands on in this 1946 campaign. So if we want to purchase a unit, we just select it and then pop it to the front. We're probably going to go with Volksgrens. We need like the highest quality stuff really, so we'll just purchase those. You can see the cash we've got at the top, so prestige is basically our cash that we use to purchase units. So in this case we'll bring them with an Opel Blitz, and then I can deploy them into a landing craft here. So we'll need to basically get as many of those as we can so that we can push through the island in a sensible manner. I might want to bring in some artillery with me as well, so we'll do that just to soften up the enemies. I'm kind of tempted to bring the Sturmtiger, but we won't worry about it. So we'll purchase another Volksgren with an Opel Blitz and pop them down there, and we'll purchase another artillery piece. Probably go with something like smaller like this, that will do. You can see we do have a limit of our core slots, so core slots includes your heavy armor as well. So in this case, the tank here is probably taking up quite a lot of core slots. It's taking up 5 slots. This one's taking up 6. So because since we're not using them, it's going to be kind of rough. We could move them to reserves, I suppose. That might be an option. And then that will free up some of our core slots. Yeah, we should do that. We'll keep the flak with us as well. We need some anti-aircraft potentially. But what this will do is allow me to bring in another unit of infantry. And we can continue to bring in more as we move on. We've got all of the different stats here on the right. So you've got cost, slots, strength, which is like the health, fuel, ammo, soft attack, hard attack, air attack, and naval attack. Now soft attack and hard attack are basically dependent on like what you're attacking. So for example, the Volksgrens here have 13 against armored units and 13 against soft units, so they're very good, and we will be wanting more of those. But you can see the 8th Grenadier here with their Panzerschrecks, I imagine have a higher hard attack. Actually they're just the same, but it's probably because the Volksgrens have Panzerfausts. Okay, so with our deployment done, we've used up all of our deployment slots. I can just click End Deployment, and we shall move on. Actually, we could just fill our core slots, I suppose, just in case. I'm gonna keep buying more Volksgrens and more artillery as well. We'll get the big artillery there with the SDKZ, and we'll get, let's see. So it's these Grens here that we were looking at. So what's the difference between those? So on the defense, they have better close defense, and they have worse ground defense. Okay, well let's get some of those. Cool. Alright, that'll do, just so I can show you guys how this works. So once we start, it's our turn. I can close this window by toggling the unit list. We can also close the mission overview if you don't want to see the objectives here and you kind of are aware of what they are. So you can kind of clean up the UI quite a lot so it's not covered with loads of stuff. You can open the stats panel, so when you click on stuff, it will show you the stats on the left hand side. You've got the chat there. Alright, so the way this works, you left click a unit and then you left click where you want to go. So say if I want to come down here, we click there, and then maybe I want to unload my dummy tank onto the shore here. Good stuff, and then we can move up. We'll do the same here, where I'll just kind of move as far as I can, and we'll jump onto the shore here. We are currently encircled because we don't have any land, but I could, in theory, just like drive onto the point here, which we'll probably do with the dummy tank, so we're not encircled. And that's going to capture the first base there with the dummy tank, and then we can bring up the rest of our reinforcements. And if you want to attack an enemy unit, you... Oops, didn't mean to do that. But you can go back, like you can undo, but you only get 3 undos. And depending on your difficulty, you might not get any undos. So you do have to be a little bit cautious of that. Like me using an undo for that would be a bit of a waste. You can undo if you do misclick. But because basically everything is left click, you have to right click to deselect. And so that can catch you out if you're used to like left click, right click to move, for example. Like left click to select, right click to move. It's just left click, left click. And same with like attacking. Like if I wanted to attack this unit, then I would have to left click it. I'll just move all of these as far as we can. I like that you can move them all at once, it's very handy. And then we'd be moving on to the next turn. You can see here the Japanese forces, they're controlled by the AI in this scenario. So they have some Japanese Jap fighters and some planes there. I'm not sure if these are troop carrying planes or if they're actually just bombers. It looks like it's a recon plane. Okay, well anyway, that's our movements done for this turn, and if I wanted to, I could then bring in more stuff behind us. So if I go to my unit panel and I have undeployed units, we can then deploy them again when we have more deployment slots, like here for example. So I can just deploy them straight onto the island since we have the place under our control, which is really nice. We'll go ahead and end the turn. And we'll let our AI get involved, and they're going to start bombing them for us. They're going to be throwing some recon around the place, getting some strafing runs going. Oh, nice amount of damage there. Now, the combat might look simple, but there is some pretty important rules about the combat in this game regarding like soft attack and hard attack. Like if your tank is in a forest and you get hit by an infantry, you're going to take a lot of damage because it's technically like a close range attack, and your tanks don't like those. You want to be kind of attacking in the open with these tanks. So here we're kind of like technically in the open, but if this were to attack me from the heavy cover, then we'd be having a bad time. And yeah, that's kind of important to note. Now if I attack here, you'll see that this artillery piece will support the attack. Now we're still going to do a lot of damage if I do that. But what I could do first is move my dummy tank here and engage the artillery, and then we can maybe kill off the artillery before we engage, so that that's not an issue for us. Although in this case it's probably not going to do too much anyway. But I will destroy that artillery, as that is a good opportunity, and this tank can kind of move out the way. I'm going to move it into the open here. It's such a dummy tank, so it doesn't matter if it dies. What we'll do is we'll move onto this point with our grenadiers, and since we have 2 units that can attack, they get the mass attack modifier. There's a lot of interesting like modifiers that you can use to get the better of your opponents. Because that was a mass attack, we will take less casualties on the attack, which is great. I should have hit them with the artillery here first. They're technically a dummy as well. Oh, really nice actually. Managed to push them off there, that's huge. So we'll capture that, thank you very much. And we'll make sure to land the rest of my troops. So we can continue to kind of move down the shore here, which I might do with a few of my troops. We seem to kind of have a handle on things already around Port Hardy, so we could just land straight towards Port McNeil. I think that's all moved though. If in the bottom right, we can click next unit, and that will select the next unit that still has points available. So let's just move up these two. Now we can technically attack with this unit. It might be worth using that just to get an extra bit of damage in there actually. So it's always worth checking the next unit button just to make sure you're not missing anything. Any opportunities to kind of move a unit an extra tile or two. Alright, so that's done. We'll end the turn. Now, looks like the Japanese are going to be engaged on the water. With aircrafts, you kind of send them out to a tile, and they can bomb or attack on a tile if there is an enemy unit there. But the thing you have to be careful of is if you move an aircraft out onto a tile and then the enemy uses their fighters to attack your aircraft, there's not much you can do about it. You're kind of at their mercy. It's one ship down. Brooklyn class taking on the Gagero class. There's a lot of ships. Cool little naval engagement though. Big damage. An Imperial Japanese Navy communique. Task Force Eiko encountered American warships, at least 2 cruisers and 2 destroyers launching strike aircraft to attack. Right, so on the way we have cheeky Sherman and an M20. Taking Port Hardy might be a little bit difficult, because I'm going to have to encircle them. Although we're going to get a good attack there. Wow, that's a -14. That's huge. Give them what for? Damn, we like just one banged them. That was pretty crazy. Okay, we'll just let our dummy go take that. Thank you very much. Port Hardy is ours. Very nice. I'm just going to move up here and we'll make sure to unload on the road. So you can basically stay in the transport if I wanted to go all the way, but we want to make sure we unload so we're not vulnerable. Like if you're still in the transport at the end of the turn, you're going to get absolutely ruined. I'm not sure what's on this island, but I almost want to find out. So I'll continue moving up the units here. And with that, I think we'll save it and we'll have a look at another campaign. So if we save this one, and then I load into another one that I started earlier. This is the Lessons of War mission. So this is the first mission in the First Guards campaign, and you'll see that it's a completely different setting. We have like early war units. We're fighting against Spain and Italy as the Russians in Spain. So really interesting scenario. We have our 8th Brigada, which is some of the Spanish forces that are joining us, and then we've got the Russian supporting armor. So we've got to take Miraglio. Well, our objective is to recapture Argesilla and Alamino, which is these two here. So we're getting pretty close to them. Bear in mind that this is a scenario that was pretty long. I think I spent about an hour on this one so far. And yeah, the idea is to eliminate extra vehicles as well. So we got eliminate all 11 Italian units or vehicles to get a special objective and shoot down all 7 Italian aircraft, because the Italian are supporting the other side of the civil war. So yeah, interesting scenario. Let's go and see what we got to do here. So I could make an attack onto this town, but we can't do that this turn. This guy can move. I think this artillery piece is looking a little vulnerable up there, I won't lie. But if I go to the unit list, and then we go to like purchase units, you'll notice how different it is. So we even get cavalry here. We've got like old Panzer 1s, BT5s, the BA6, the AT1. There's the cannon there, the Breda 47 that is. We got the Gaz AA truck, some old school 203mm artillery, and a BT7A. We got like the older aircraft as well, the I-16 and the I-16, I-15. EO2. Tubulev's going to be like the biggest bomber, and then the Ilyushin bomber as well in there as well. That's probably the biggest one, to be honest. It's very cool. Anyway, we can end the turn here, and we'll see what the AI get up to. They're going to be hitting one of my special tanks. This is Trubia, the unique tank that was sort of a prototype. We got hit hard there by the Italian tanks. As suspected, my poor artillery piece got hit pretty hard. It did survive, so that was pretty lucky for us. I will want to deal with those ASAP. The best thing for me to do here is to encircle them, and then we're more likely to do a decent amount of damage. So we'll hit them from this side. That is going to cost us potentially 6 and them less, but we need to weaken them. So we'll hit them again from this side. So that was 4-4, which is fine. But you can reinforce as you go. So for example, this artillery piece we can use replace on the left here. So replace will give us +5 strength back. And we can also elite replace them if we want to make sure that we don't lose any experience, because replacing units and reinforcing units in this game will reduce their experience, because obviously you're not replacing them with other sort of experienced people well, after they've died. So we can elite replace them. We do have like 10,600 prestige, so elite replacing this would be fine, and it's very close to level 1. And once you get to like a level, you can't go below that level, I believe, by elite replacing or by normal replacing. I don't think it goes back below 1 experience level. Like some of these are already 1 experience, so I think if I were to normal replace this, oh, maybe it does. Okay, never mind. You need elite replace to maintain your experience. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, well, we're going to fire at those with the artillery. I probably should have done that already. And then we can engage them. We've actually got ourselves encircled. Oops. We already made the attack, didn't we? I want to hit them as much as possible. And then maybe I want to make some tank attacks here. I could probably attack them with the infantry. That will do a decent amount of damage. Because this is from heavy cover, they're having a bad time there, for sure. Now we can attack without taking any damage at all, which is great. We'll just move my tank into position here. Surprised they still have the surrounded modifier. And we're also trying to catch up to this cavalry unit, so we'll engage those. And we'll move up the anti-tank gun to engage Rio. If you want to check like how much damage you can do to adjacent units, you just kind of hover over the tile that you'd be moving to, and then you can follow up with your attack afterwards. In this case, we're just gonna bombard here. I'm gonna just hit this. It's just like a bunker complex that we got to break down, so pretty low on health now. Move forwards the artillery. Since this is technically short range artillery, they can't counter attack. Use my tank to finish those off. Perfect. And since they were overrun, it means I can move again. This is a very important part of understanding how this game works. Using overrun to your advantage can be really, really good. Like if you chain overruns, you can get a lot of kills very fast indeed. I'm going to shift them forwards. You can see they're actually being pulled by horse and carts. That's pretty cool. I think like there aren't many games that focus on scenarios like this, like from the Spanish Civil War, for example, where the technology was so different to that was used in World War II. I'm going to use one of my fighters here to just strafe those in the mountains there. And we might be able to strafe something else. Maybe down here we can strafe this unit in the town. Just weaken them a little bit as we want to push into those. Nice, we managed to push them out with the first shot there. Very good. So I'm just gonna move these guys into the town and they can be our defense there. And meanwhile, the rest can kind of head up north. I will elite replace these guys and elite replace this. And then these can, yeah, move over to the other side of the town. Because we've got to take these objectives as well. There are nationalist supply bases around the place, which is these extra objectives. So these are the main objectives, the solid hexes. And then the secondary objectives are like this one and the two that we've already taken. So in order to get the most rewards out of a mission, you do want to complete all of your secondary objectives. That's pretty important to note as well. Yeah, if you ever get lost, next is always the key to press. Now, I really want to get up onto this hill, but I think what I'll do is we'll kind of advance up the road here. Okay. These can stay where they are, that is fine. They will be staying where they are. Do I want to make that attack? Maybe I should. This is 1 for 1. I think it's fine. Now, recon units have a bit of a separate mechanic where they can move twice in one turn. And most of the time, if you use your move order, you're kind of stuck with that move order. Like you can't move again afterwards, but recon units can kind of move as many times as they want, one after another, in a certain direction. So it's really good for just like moving forwards a little bit and checking before you continue moving on again. Now in this case we can't move any further because of the terrain, most likely. Leave that where it is. We could actually hit them again. Leave that where it is. I do have this aircraft, which I could rebase to this airfield. So once you capture airfields, you can move your aircraft to those airfields in order to use them to engage the enemy further up. Yeah, I think everything is moved. Taking a little bit of a strafe there. Artillery's going for my tank, but didn't do any damage. My poor infantry. 2 for 2, I don't mind that. Because I have the overall numbers superiority, trading equally is not so bad. We're on turn 18 of 35, so you can see how long these can take, especially considering, you know, it took us like 5 minutes to do that turn. Getting through 30 turns is going to be a little while. If we move up onto the mountains here, we can get a high ground attack and finish them off. Perfect. And they've gained a star. We could continue the engagement there, but the smart thing to do would actually be fall back to high ground. And then if they come down here, we can engage them. I'm going to just maybe normal replace these. I guess we could elite replace them. It doesn't really matter. It just costs you more to elite replace them. So we'll elite replace them. Elite replace that. And yeah, they're going to be quite fortified. So because they're in a town, they do have the fortification. We're going to have to basically surround them before we start attacking them so that we get mass attack modifiers. And I can also move up my artillery so that we can start smashing it with artillery and breaking down their morale. So there's a chance that if we attack them, they will just fall back away from the town. So that's pretty important as well. But we'll just keep them in the trees for now, as we don't have the men to kind of follow up. These can be elite replaced. That can be elite replaced. This, I kind of need to just move up the road a bit with those, and we'll get them into position next turn. Be dealing with this unit and probably finish that off with my recon. And now what I can do is probably kill it with the BT5 and then hit the unit afterwards. The infantry unit there, because this will be overrun. Then we can move forwards, we can hit this unit as well, and then get a nice double attack in there. I'm just going to let these hit Morario, and then we can just move in there and cap that. And then I can use that position to engage the enemy infantry there. We don't want to engage the artillery because they'll be able to fire back. I also have this unit that I moved to the airbase that we can bring over and use to spray. There's another airbase here to capture, so it would be nice if we could. Down here, nice if I could like move the aircraft over slightly. A different hex. We'll just keep them here to help out. They can hit this pretty hard. We'll do that. Meanwhile, this tank can head up the road, as we need to take over this area. And this still has movement, so they can move. This aircraft, I think I'm going to rebase it over here as well. Yeah, if you zoom all the way out, you do get sort of like this top-down simplified look at the battlefield, which is nice, but the graphics in this game are really cool, and you can zoom all the way in. There's a lot to love about this game. Yeah, decent detailing on the units, really good sort of simplified combat. It's nice. Alright, let's move on to the next unit. And these guys can start moving up the road with my tank, as we will want to assault this objective, maybe capture the airfield so that I can move an aircraft over here. That would be nice. And there we go. Yeah, so what I'll do now is we'll just save this game. We'll return to the main menu, and we'll have a look at another one. which is the Cyrenaica campaign. I'll just kind of cover this briefly because it's another one that I played that I thought was really good. So in the summer of 1940, a German attack on Great Britain seems imminent. Seeking a place among the victors, Italy launches a surprise offensive from Libya into British-controlled Egypt. This marks the beginning of the North African campaign, one of the major turning points of World War II. Relive the opening stages of this historic conflict, Operation E and Operation Compass, like never before in this double-sided campaign. So you can play both sides, which is another really cool thing about this campaign compared to some of the others. And yeah, so we can command the Italian forces as they launch the ambitious Operation E, or you can play Operation Compass on the other side and sort of fight back. So we'll launch as the Italians because it's, I think, a perspective that doesn't really get covered that often. You know, you're often playing as the British in North Africa because they were the victors, right? Well, I guess it depends on what time you're talking about, but either way, you know, history can be biased, and I feel like it's really nice when games can cover both sides of the conflict. If we jump in, we'll now have like 1940s Italian equipment to play with, so some of which we were fighting against in the Spanish Civil War campaign. And I think that's one thing that Panzer Corps 2 does really well, is it kind of encompasses the scale of the war and how that much equipment was used in different areas of the world. I think it's a really interesting part of this game. Here we are. We select our commander again. We'll just go with Infantry General. So the attack order has arrived. We're invading Egypt. See, it takes us through the situation here. So we've got to push all the way down the road towards Sollum with our Italian units. We get some of our heroes that we can assign to different units. Yeah, as you can see, we get the sort of AS-40 here. Little recon car. I think it's AS-42 with the autocannon on it. We got the L335. There's some engineers in there. We got the L333. Some more Italian infantry. We've also got like the Falco as our air support. We got some cavalry up here. There's the motorcycle. Just really cool different units, different scenarios. And like if I just go straight out of the deployment just to show you how this works, like cavalry can travel very far, of course, because they're on horseback. So that's really cool. We can just zoom down and take El Tafud nice and quick before the Morris can counterattack. Although we do need to be careful here because, as you can see, you can click enemy units and see what the outcome would be. And in this case, actually they'd probably take quite a lot of damage if they were to attack me there. So pretty good for us. Alas, that is unfortunately all I have time for, but you can see the different sort of scenarios, the different terrain, different units that you can get your hands on all the way from 1939 to 1946 and beyond. And Panzer Corps 2 is such a all-encompassing game when it comes to both historical and sort of fictional scenarios. Again, if I go back to the main menu, we can go to New Game Scenario, and you have different scenarios here as well. So you have historical and fictional scenarios. Really, really interesting stuff. And you get to play as all sorts of different nations as you go. So, yeah, hopefully Panzer Corps 2, worth taking a look for you guys. Big thanks again for Slytherin. To Slytherin for sponsoring this video. I do really appreciate it. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.